Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to have you here. And today we are doing a replay of one of my favorite episodes of all time. Have you ever seen little kids and they've got that silver teeth, or you take your child to the dentist and you're so sad to hear they've got cavities or there's some issues, and you think, geez, I have them brush their teeth. You don't want your kid to be afraid of the dentist. You don't want them to have a negative experience. And so, when do you start? How can you avoid some of these issues as you're raising your little guys? Well, I have the answer. Dr. Ted Bennion is an orthodontist out of Medford, Oregon. He's an amazing father of 5 wonderful kids. And I'm so excited that not only does he share some really great information on how and when to get started with taking care of your kiddos' teeth, but he also integrates some amazing parenting advice that's going to make life so much easier for you all. So enjoy the replay. I enjoyed listening to it again. I hope you will too. And we'll see you next time.
You are listening to episode 3 of Imperfect Heroes Insights into Parenting. Today, I am so excited because I have my very first guest, Dr. Ted Bennion, and he is going to talk to us about how important oral health is, how early you should start, some of the do's and don'ts, and he actually throws in a lot of really good general parenting advice into the mix. I'm so excited. Let's get started. So, as I said in the intro, my guest today is Ted Bennion, and I want to explain a little bit about what was going on. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a family reunion. Not all of us could get there, but all of my siblings were there. And between everybody, we had 75 people. Wish we could have had more, but we all had so much fun. In my family, I have several people who are great experts in various areas of parenting. And so I decided to take advantage of that. And I recorded a few of my siblings and asked them some questions. Ted is so enthusiastic. He is one of the twins, and he is an orthodontist working in Medford, Oregon. He is such a great father and such a great husband. And I just love watching him with his kids. His youngest just graduated from high school, and they are just all so successful, caring, and community involved people that I wanted to make sure that I got in with him and some of his insights. So he gives some fantastic information on dental care in early childhood, some of which I had no idea. Even through raising my 5 kids, there was some very new information for me. And what's really fun is he also throws in some amazing parenting advice along the way. And a lot of the things he talks about with developing the habit of dental care in our very young children can translate into almost anything you do with your young kids. And so, without further ado, here's our interview. So, hey, welcome, and I'm so glad to have you here. So, I have with me Dr. Ted Bennion. He's an orthodontist in Medford, Oregon. And so, Ted, I'm just going to have you take a second and just introduce yourself, let parents know how you know, what you do.
Cool. So, like DJ said, I'm Ted Bennion and been practicing orthodontics for about 25 years here in Medford, Oregon. I went to undergraduate and got a degree in zoology and then went on to dental school. That's a 4-year degree, and then went on to orthodontic residency, which is 3 years after that. Started practicing in Medford. I work a lot with young kids, so about 70% of my practice is kids, and then 30% are adults. How to work with kids a lot over the years and how to work with them. Some of the most successful courses for me when I was in my residency were in adolescent psychology. Really useful courses where we kind of learned how to work with kids, where they're coming from, what are they thinking, and how to connect with them. And I think that was the most powerful educator and help for me, because you can know a ton, but if you can't translate that to the kids that you're working with, they're not going to get straight teeth. And there's been some very good studies that show that parents, specifically mothers for these studies, but I would imagine it extrapolates to fathers as well, but mothers that are connected with their children's orthodontic care, and I would extrapolate that to dental care and other areas as well, the more they're connected to the care, the better the end result is.
Wow.
Now, you'd think that, you go to orthodontics and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go to the best orthodontist in the world. But that best orthodontist is only as good as the parents are doing in their home. And part of it is, I can say they need to brush, but mom and dad go home with them. And they're the ones who are making sure that happens every day. They're the ones who are making sure they wear their rubber bands and that they're eating the proper foods and they're getting to their appointments. And they're the ones who stay connected. And the more connected that they were to the care, the better the end result was. That's what I've learned over the years. And what I've learned too is, while moms that are connected, or dads, have a huge impact, so does my impact as well. The better I am at connecting with them, the better everything rolls. And the more that they connect with me and realize we're on the same page, we're trying to do this together. And from the very initial exam, I'm sitting down with them saying, hey, we're working together to do this. I'm not the guy who just sits down and says, here's what you all have to do. It's me saying, we're going to work together. These are some of the things that you're going to do. These are some of the things that I need to do. And together we're going to find success in doing that. One of the things that we do when we work with something as simple as like thumb habits, that's early habits that parents really get worried about. They come to me and it's like, my child sucks their thumb. What do they need to do? I'm like, well, first, congratulations. They suck their thumb. You have a pretty happy child because they never lose their thumb. Right? They may lose their binky, but they ain't going to lose their thumb. And that's kind of great. And they sleep well. I have a daughter that has, in her ultrasound, we had an image of her with her thumb in her mouth. And I mean, talk about a kid that is going to be connected with sucking her thumb, right? And parents come in and they get really concerned about, well, how am I going to stop this habit? And my answer is, well, you're not. It's your child's habit. It's your child's decision. It's your child's life. And I try to sit down with the parents and give a little bit of my parenting philosophy, which is that every trial that we come up against with our kids is an opportunity to connect with them, to bring a closer relationship with them. And if that relationship is devolving and getting worse, then we need to reset as a parent. The kid isn't going to reset. That's not their job. But we have to reset. So a thumb habit is just another opportunity for you to express your love to your child and to conquer a mountain with them together. And also that them recognizing that it's their mountain to conquer and you're there to help. The literature basically says that anybody that's sucking the thumb up to 4 or so until the first teeth come in really isn't doing that much damage. Isn't reversible. Somebody that may be sucking really hard on that thumb can be forming a palate to their thumb, which would narrow the upper palate. But I don't see that very often. Parents always come in, moms especially, get really worried, like, am I the most horrible mom on earth because of this or this or this? There's that martyr syndrome that can really hit hard, that the mom feels like, I've done my best, I've sacrificed my life for this and still didn't get what I wanted. So I'm always telling moms, hey, you're doing better than you think. The main thing you have to think about is don't worry too much about what has happened. Most of it's reversible. Yes, it may cost some money. Yes, it may take some time, but it's all reversible. If you let them suck their thumb for up to 7 or 8 or 9, it's okay. We'll pick up the pieces from here and move forward. But most of it wasn't caused by that. It's just genetics that just they came out. So if the child's sucking their thumb, they're worried that they have a big overbite because of it. Well, sometimes that does happen, but a lot of times kids suck their thumbs and don't have a huge overbite. They most often have an open bite. The bite just doesn't come together in the front. And that's why we'd like to get it fixed before they get to 5 or 6, because those front teeth are going to stop growing in. But once they stop sucking their thumb, it'll grow again. As long as those upper teeth haven't fully stopped forming, as long as the root isn't done and completed with forming, it's going to be okay. So if we catch it 5, 6, even 7, it's plenty of time to stop that. We even see them after that, where we say stop sucking the thumb and the teeth just grow together. And I love seeing that because I get to tell the kids, I'll show them pictures and say, hey, here's somebody else who had a thumb habit. Look at what happened This is them 3 months later. Look at how their teeth came together. And the kid goes, oh my goodness, wow. I mean, little kids.
Right.
Like, oh, I can make that happen. So the other reason why I like to wait until they're in school at least is I love to ask the question, do you suck your thumb at school? 90% of them go no. And so I want to use that as my building block to say, you've already conquered your habit. If you can go 8 hours without sucking your thumb, you got it. You know, little kids have short attention spans, and that thumb's going to be back in their mouth. So we're sitting down with them saying, well, you don't suck your thumb at school. My next question is, I want to establish authority. I want to establish independence and their own authority over their own body. And so I'll say, hey, so who told you you couldn't suck your thumb? And they just look at me like blank, like, what are you talking about? They never really want to say, I don't want to get teased. And I don't want to hit that subject too hard with them either. But they'll just go, well, you know, they look around like, nobody told me, okay? And I'm like, okay, nobody told you. So let's get this straight. Your mom didn't say, I don't want you sucking your thumb at school. Because really, that doesn't happen that often. The kids just stop. And they go, no, my mom didn't. And if they do happen to get around that and say, well, yeah, my mom did tell me. I guess, so did your mom follow you to school and stop you each time you did it? And they're like, no. Okay, so great. It wasn't your mom. Did your teacher tell you, threaten you, that if you suck your thumb that you'd be in trouble? Nope. Did your principal? I go through all the people as I do this, right down the line. And then they look at me and go, no, it wasn't anybody. It was just me. That's it. I'm like, okay, so you yourself, by yourself, said, I'm not going to do this. Now I've really established in their head, oh yeah, it wasn't anybody but me that wanted this to happen. Mm-hmm. So now I've said, it's you, you're in charge of this. So then I say, hey, did you ever have a time when you're watching a movie like at school and the lights are dark and you put your thumb in your mouth? And they're like, nope. Okay, do you get under your desk and put your thumb in your mouth? Nope. Do you sometimes take bathroom breaks so you can go in the bathroom and suck your thumb? Nope. The answer is nope, 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 95% of the time. The 5% of the time that they say yes, they're not ready to stop sucking their thumb. They got bigger issues. And I've seen kids that have come in that have gone to other offices where they put things that have stopped them from sucking their thumb. There are appliances you can apply to the child, which can work and can be a good adjunct for certain kids, but that's rare. Those kids, I saw one come in and her eyebrows were gone. I was like, okay, what happened to your eyebrows? Mom's like, well, she stopped sucking her thumb, but she plucked her eyebrows out. I'm like, okay, yeah. Not ready to stop sucking your thumb, okay? So that's, to me, as a parent, that's what I'm looking for. You know, when I win a battle, but the war is being lost, it's like, let's reset and see if this battle is so important, or if we need to just save the battle for another time. Then we sit down with them. So once I've established that, and the kids are like, yeah, no, I don't need to do any of those things. Then we say, well, okay, you don't find the need to do this. What's the next step? So you obviously don't do it. What stopped you from doing it? Now I want to gently begin to bring out that idea that I don't want to be teased. Right. And they're like, well, I do because of the other kids maybe? Yeah, I don't want that. Gotcha. And I let them know I sucked my thumb. I'm okay. My treatment coordinator, she sucked her thumb, so we all sucked our thumbs here. You're in good company. You're among friends. And so then when they do that, then I sit down with them and say, okay, now, so you've already got the habit broken. You're already basically there. We just need to add more. When you have a good incentive, you stop, don't you? They're like, yeah, nobody really needs to push you when that happens. Right. Then I begin to find out, okay, now let's point to these pictures. Do you see the problem? Do you see your teeth not coming together? Yes. Now, when I was younger, orthodontist, I would say, okay, if we don't fix this, you might need surgery to fix this. Like, bring out the big guns. We want to avoid surgery, right? Oof, that did not fly. It just got the kids scared to death, and didn't work well at all. But if I just said, we can fix this and show pictures of other kids, their teeth came together, they can bite into things now. Kids see things that are proximal, right? I want to bite into food. Can you bite into a pizza? And blah, blah, blah. But that's not a driving force. They'll learn to eat a pizza with the side of their mouth. They'll do whatever. So then I'm starting to say, okay, we can get rid of these things, and then I won't have to do work on you, right? Then your mom doesn't have to do it. So once I realize that, then we start to say, okay, we're going to do a program where you go home with your mom, and you guys get a calendar and print it up on the computer, and on your way home, go grab some stickers. Whatever you're interested in, go get stickers like that. And then every day that you don't suck your thumb, you guys will put a sticker on the calendar. Put it in a public place. Put it in the kitchen where everybody gets to celebrate. This is a celebration. because every time you don't do it for the day, we put a sticker on that. If you go a full week where you get a sticker every day, then at the end of the week, do something a little bigger. We used to not just give the sticker, but we'd say, okay, on day 1, you're going to jump on the trampoline with Dad for 15 minutes.
Fun.
Or we're going to read a book together. Or we're going to watch one of your TV shows together. Or we're going to play a video game together. It was a lot of that was personal interaction with the parent. They're at an age where they want that.
Yeah.
And we would say, what special thing do you want to do? And we'd write it down on that calendar. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. So the kid's highly motivated to do those things with their parent. And you got to figure out things that really match the child's personality. Then we would say at the end of the week, we might take a walk to the treat store and get a treat together, or take a walk to the bookstore and we'll read books together, or the library and rent a book from the library, whatever we want to do. Then if we do a full month of it, the whole month, then at the end of that month, we're going to do something that's bigger. My daughter wanted to go to the Family Fun Center with all the video games and everything, and she wanted the whole family to go. Some of the kids would have been just mom and dad and her.
Right.
But mine was the second in the family, and she loved to be the family hero, so that's where she wanted to go. So just the act of sitting down together and having this time together is huge. And we see 90% of the families come back the first week and go, oh yeah, it's done. It works.
Wow.
It works phenomenally well. Now the kids, the big struggle is, what do they do at night, right? Oh man, so we sit and talk about it. I give them several options. They can go get a popsicle and eat the popsicle and then tape the popsicle to their thumb. The other one was to...
The popsicle stick.
Popsicle, yes, exactly. Thank you so much for doing that. My staff have to do that all the time with me. Could we be a little more clear, doctor? That's right. So we went and did that. They get the popsicle stick. Another thing was to put a sock over, and then I'm always teasing them, like, don't use one of your dad's smelly socks. Those are horrible. And then we tell them, pin the sock to their pajamas so it stays there. Another is a glove that they can pin, the cotton glove they can pin to their pajamas. And then I sit down and tell them, my daughter, who when she was 4, she said, Dad, why don't I just tape my thumb to my hand? And I said, and so we taped it to her hand. She taped it. We started it, and then she wrapped it. And funny enough, 90% of the kids choose that one, because I identify it as the one my daughter made up, right?
Yeah.
And they want to do what the kid thought of, and it was truly what a kid thought of. So we found that if the parents wrapped it, it didn't work as well. It's either too loose or too tight. The kids need to be some portion of that overall activity. Once again, give them independence. Let them be a part of the solution as much as you possibly can. And so many parents come back just with really great reviews of just how this worked, how this brought them closer to their child, and they came together. But too often, we're imposing our will on a kid on something they need to do. I mean, and I tell when I lecture to 4th graders on their teeth, I'll spend an hour and go to different schools and talk to them. And I'm always telling them, hey, when you don't brush your teeth, do your parents get cavities? It's like, so why do you brush your teeth? You brush your teeth for you. Could you imagine if your parents did get cavities? Holy cow, what a world this would be. So that's powerful. So just trying to set the scene. And I want to do that throughout my orthodontic practice, is really set the scene from the beginning. This is your body. This is your life. I'm just here to help you to get what you want. And if you don't want this, then we have to be really careful about starting it, because you're not going to do all the stuff after, wearing retainers or all that, that's going to keep it in place. That's one of my principal philosophies within my practice, is autonomy of the patient and inspiration to get them to do what they need to do. I have information that they don't have that I need to translate to them, and they're not going to listen to it unless they connect with me in the end.
Thanks so much. I love what you said about the child being part of that decision, and it's the child's benefit, and so it is their responsibility to do the work to get that benefit, and having them coming up.
And it can't be lectured, right? It can't be like, well, I'm telling you, this is for you, this is for you. They're really not connecting. They're still doing it just because it's like, I want to get mom off my back. It's sitting down and saying, okay, let's talk about this a little bit. Well, how do you see it? What do you see about your teeth? And sometimes you're not going to get through to that kid to brush their teeth until they get their first cavity. The Boy Scouts does an incredible job of this thing called reflection. And I learned about it when I was doing training years ago, where they sit down, they teach them, not every Boy Scout group does this, but the ones who are successful do it really well. But you sit down after an activity, and you sit down as a group and you reflect on it. There are very few rules other than nobody gets to cut anybody off. All the answers are relevant and useful, and we're not going to tease anybody for their answer. We're just going to hear about what you think about this. And so if your child comes home after a cavity has been filled, Tell me about your experience there. Let's talk about it. Did the dentist say anything? What could we do to maybe, now hopefully we're reinforcing, hey, this turned out to be not such a bad experience. However, it did cost this much money.
Yeah.
So I would like to reflect on that a little bit more with people and say, this was money, and now luckily it's a baby tooth. And so this one's going to fall out. So it's not going to be there for the rest of your life. But the new ones, they're going to be there, and this cavity will be there for the rest of your life, or the filling will be there for the rest of your life, and you're going to have to pay to get it redone over and over. So what kind of things could we do to make sure that we don't go down this path again? And then reinforce some of the things you talked about. I mean, so many times I've had my kids come back from the dentist and say, Dad, I got to brush better. I'm like, really? Wow, that's a revelation. You know I'm a dentist and I talked to you about that? But, it can be a time of conflict, like, well, I've told you that over and over and over. It's like, no, don't say that. Say, oh, I'm so glad you heard that message. That's awesome. Tell me what your thought about that. But parents too often will sit back and say, oh, I told you that too. Why don't you listen to me? Why do you listen to your dentist? Well, now we've got a battle. Why force a battle? Why not say, hey, what did you learn? Wow, that's phenomenal. I'm glad you learned that. Now we move on. And we're on the same page. And the same thing like when parents say, project their own fears of the dentist onto their child. That's a big problem as well. You don't want to project those. Oh, yeah, I was afraid of the dentist, but I hope you're not afraid of the dentist. Well, that kid heard I was afraid of the dentist,
Right.
Or subtle things that the parents say. I see more kids who are dental phobes who come from parents who are dental phobes. And because they passed it on, the subtle language that goes on there. And you just have to be super careful about how you present dentistry and mouth, because I'll tell you, the more positive experiences a child can have in the dental chair as a young child, the better off they'll be as an adult. Every negative experience is just multiplied tenfold as they get older. And so we want to be as positive as possible, because they're finding out more and more now the relationship with the mouth to the body, which is like, no duh. I mean, it's the portal. It's
Right.
the main portal to the rest of your body. It's like not having at the airports, you've got your checkpoints, right? If you don't have a checkpoint and anything comes in, it's like, well, yeah, and we were shocked. We had some terrorists, on board. But it's in your mouth is going into your body. And what decay is there, people will allow festering wounds in their mouth that you would never allow in the rest of your body. If you had a wound on your arm that hadn't healed in 6 months, you wouldn't be like, well, my doctor says just to live with it. It's like, no, that's going to have an effect on your body. And so what we find is when there's gingivitis and periodontitis in a person's mouth, that it affects things in a way that we had not thought previously. Heart disease is significantly correlated with periodontal disease, gum disease. Diabetes is correlated significantly with periodontal disease. Preterm pregnancy. A good gynecologist, OBGYN, will ask a pregnant mother, when was the last time you saw your dentist? And make sure that you're getting your teeth cleaned regularly, because preterm pregnancy is correlated with that. And now they're finding that potentially Alzheimer's is linked with it. That says more at the newer edge, where they're saying, oh, well, we're finding the same kind of plaques in the mouth in these Alzheimer's brains. Is there a correlation there? But the heart disease and diabetes that data is 20, 25 years old. In fact, I had a good friend of mine who is a heart surgeon 20 years ago who came to me. He's like, I was reading in my flagship cardiovascular journal that of the correlation between the two, that it's as significant as many of the correlators that we think of, like high blood pressure and atherosclerosis and those things. He's like, why aren't you guys beating that drum as dentists? We're like, well, it's new data. We don't want to go and say that and then not have it there. But now that it's been 25 years, it's significantly correlated. We go and talk to our patients a lot now. Interestingly, COVID. There were some studies that came out that people who had COVID, people who also had periodontal disease, were 5, 6, 7 times more likely to be hospitalized, and also is more likely to die. I mean, the correlations were massive. Right now, you also realize that who gets COVID? Older people, right, who tend to have those diseases as well. So once again, we didn't jump on that boat as dentists, but still the correlation is there, that you sit back and say, man, can we afford not to really be paying attention to oral health and how it applies to the rest of our bodies? You do not want bloody gums occurring when you're brushing and everything else, because not only is the blood coming out of your gums, but it's also allowing all of the plaque and other things to get into your body through that blood supply. So it's like rubbing a wound. You wouldn't use your saliva on a wound. It's like, right now you're giving a grimace. As I say that, like, no, don't spit on a wound, right? And yet you'll brush your teeth and bleed and be like, oh yeah, there's a little bleeding there. Oh, you'll floss and you'll bleed and you'll be like, oh, there's a little bleeding there. And then people will say, well, I'm not flossing because I bled. It's like, no. You got to clean that wound out. But it's really important to get in there and make sure you're taking care of it. And so establishing those good habits as a kid and helping them to recognize their mouth is a really important part of their body to take care of is more than just the financial edge of it or even the disease. It's about longer lifespans as well. So really useful.
Well, and with everything that you're bringing up, it makes me wonder, how early do we need to introduce oral care to our children? And what does that earliest, youngest dental care at home look like? What should be the first thing that parents are doing with their kids?
Really, I mean, you can start even before they get the first tooth with them. There's some of these brushes that are for gums and just kind of getting used to something in their mouth from a very young age of just massaging their gums, having your hand close to their mouth, having it as a shared experience. You're not enforcing it. Once you're holding your child down while you brush their teeth, you might want to think about it again. I mean, if I put psychological health and I pit it against teeth, even though I feel teeth are very important, psychological health wins. And relationship between parents and child, hugely important. I mean, it's above teeth. It's not a sucker's choice. It's not a choice between either or. Like, I either have a good relationship or my kids have a bad teeth. It's like, what am I going to choose? It's like, well, you can have both. You just have to be a little more creative. With my grandkids, what I find works really well is we talk about bugs. Kids are into bugs. Little kids are into bugs. And you say, there's bugs in your mouth. I try to use the language that they understand. Right. It's like, yeah, there's little bugs in your mouth, and I'm in charge of helping you get them out. And then I'll look in their mouth, and I'll have, okay, let me see if I see any in there. Oh my goodness, there's one right there. Hey, bug. And I'll have them open their mouth, and I'll get my mouth close to theirs. Hey, bug, get out of there. And oh my goodness, that bug, he is not leaving. I got this special bug wand. I'll get in there, and I'll brush him off. And I'll brush him off, and I'll stop. I got 2 minutes here. I got to get this teeth brushed, and I got to go and do this and this and this. Kids don't work on that kind of program. They work on relationships. The kids, they try and not get to bed, right? We all know that. Exactly. So with my own kids, I'm sitting there and we're going to slow down. When this time occurs, it may take us 5, 10, 15 minutes. We're going to take the time and sit with them and have fun and laugh and talk. I mean, same way of changing a diaper. Are we going a million miles an hour? It's like, no, slow down. Chat with them, talk. Oh, these poopy diapers are sticky, and have fun with the whole process rather than just get in, get out. It's something I don't really fully enjoy. When you're brushing their teeth, it's hard. It's like, oh my goodness, they're crying. And granted, sometimes they will cry. It is true. But if I can have experiences where we're having a one-on-one good experience, and I'm talking about bugs, and okay, time to get the bugs, I find kids like rhythms. Mm-hmm. So as we're going through it night after night, oh, hey, let's check out those bugs. And they know what the rhythm is. They know what the story is. And we go in there and we replay it again and we have fun with it. That's, to me, a significant part of it. So you start that early on. Yeah, brushing the gums doesn't do much. I mean, it certainly doesn't. What benefit is it? I don't know. But the good benefit is getting something in their mouth. It can take a half a second. They get used to that and we have fun playing around. I don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of starting when they have gums. Is like, right. Yeah, I'll just go in there. Now, on that same subject, it's really critical that moms do not feed their children anything in a bottle when they're going to bed, while they're going to sleep. Okay. If they have anything that has sugar in it, and I'm talking natural sugars too, so you put milk, apple juice, or any of those things, they are all full of sugars, and they are bathing their mouth at night. That's how you get baby bottle syndrome. Pediatricians are talking about not feeding them much water either because they're not getting caloric intake with it. My daughters came to me and I went to put water in the bottle and they're like, Dad, what are you doing? Don't put water in there. I'm like, new rules. I don't know what to do anymore. And they're like, no, there's no calories in that. It's not good for them. So I was like, okay, no more of that. Parents used to put their kids to bed just with the water so they wouldn't get baby bottle mouth. And so you cannot ever do that with them. You have to make sure that they're not getting any of that because it'll rot and decay. And now you've put them up against a real wall because you got to get all that dental care done when they're very young, and that can be a real problem. So getting in there, flossing children's teeth, that one I want to get in there and brush, but flossing can be just a real difficult thing to do. They have the new water pick flossers. that you could put on the low end of it, and you could do that in the bathtub. The newer studies are finding that water pick flossers are as effective or possibly more effective than flossing. Okay? These are really, really effective tools. And I interview hygienists and dentists all the time now, seeing data on our research that's saying this could be, are you seeing it in your practice? And they're like, yes. I did with myself. I floss every day. I started using a flossing and water pick flosser, and my gums are more healthy. That's just the truth of it. It's water pick flossers are incredible. I believe that flossing is more important than brushing because 90% of the decay and fillings that you're going to get are between the teeth. And so you just got to get in there and clean out those areas. Does that mean brushing isn't important? No, it's a very, very close second. But they're just two things that go together. And so you got to really make sure that you're getting the floss in there. However, a lot of the cavities for kids are going to be in between the teeth as well. But flossing can be a difficult thing. If you can do the water pick flosser in the bathtub, man, that's awesome. I like the portable ones that are rechargeable. It's a cheaper version as well. And you can only get Waterpik, Waterpik. I have no financial interest in them, although I should because they're a really good company, but I don't. And I don't like the Waterpik toothbrush, personally. I get poor reviews from my hygienists. I've used it. I'm not impressed with this. I love electric toothbrushes are the bomb. They are Sonicare and Oral-B are by far the top of the line. There's other brushes that come in and go, but I don't see the robust research that's behind Sonicare and Oral-B electric toothbrushes. The problem with some of the electric toothbrushes is the little kids don't like the vibration. That ultrasonic vibration tickles their nose and all that. So we don't use them. Get one of those little fun ones. I mean, for little kids, they'll get the fun rotary brushes. And I'm like, whatever makes this experience go a little bit longer, great. Also, kids are very sensitive to toothpaste. A lot of kids don't like mint. You'll hear them complaining about, I don't like that flavor. I don't like that. Get them a flavor that they like. Try to get one that's sugar-free, xylitol or any other. Xylitol I like as a sugar substitute. Or do it without toothpaste. You don't have to have toothpaste in order to do a good job of brushing your little kids' mouths. If they don't like it, don't use it. Just use a toothbrush. The toothbrush is the main job here. You're mechanically removing plaque from around the teeth, and that's what you got to do. So use that. If you can, use a Waterpik flosser. And I like I said, I like the portable because you can use it in the shower. It's not sitting there in the sink. I just don't see kids, it's so messy using the Waterpik flosser. It's just water gushing out of your mouth, right? You can't swallow it fast enough, and you shouldn't. I mean, it's just water, but I mean, you just be totally hydrated afterwards, but bloated. But if you can get in there and use that in their bathtub and just use it in their mouth, and if you can't get there every day, you don't. Get there every other day. Get in there and clean it out regularly enough. Kids don't develop bacteria that fast. I mean, cleaning a kid's teeth, if you go to the pediatric dentist and they're cleaning your teeth, most of the time, that's not a hygienist cleaning the teeth. It's an assistant who's been specially trained to just clean the teeth. It's so easy to clean kids' teeth. You don't need a hygienist to do it generally. Wow. If your dentist says that they need hygiene cleanings, totally yes. I agree with whatever the dentist prescribes. But most of the time, when I talk to my pediatric dentist, the assistant can do it because it's super easy to clean kids' teeth. I mean, think about it. The rest of their life is easy too. They don't get diseases the same typically. I mean, they can go and play for hours and hours and hours and not seem to have any problem the next day. And we go out and play and like, ow, right? But you just got to get in there regularly enough that you can do it. And if you're going to the dentist and the dentist is saying, hey, you're doing a good job and you're only doing something every other day in terms of flossing with a Waterpik flosser or a floss, then keep doing it. It's working, The foods that the kids eat is also significant, right? In order to get decay in somebody's mouth, you have to have three things. You need a substrate, which is the tooth. If you don't have teeth, guess what? You don't get cavities. You also have to have sugars, and you have to have bacteria. Those are the three things. If you only ate meat, you would never get cavities. If you only ate fat, you would never get cavities because the bacteria eat sugars. Complex or simple sugars, whatever it is, they need sugars. They like the simple sugars because they can eat them like crazy. I mean, they can go crazy with simple sugars. And I tell kids it's if they ever watch Shark Week, it's like the feeding frenzy of sharks when you throw the food in there. Water's frothing. I said, that's what it looks like in your mouth when you eat sugar, okay? When you eat complex sugars like a potato or, some of the other things, the starches, rice, those take a lot more time to break down. Where they get stuck in between the teeth or that, they'll start to break down. Salivary amylase breaks down carbohydrates in your mouth, and that's what feeds the bacteria then. So some people have more virulent types of strains of bacteria in their mouth, and so they process the sugar faster and create the plaques faster. Some people have fine bacteria, but they eat a lot of sugar. If you move your sugar down, you're going to be better. Decrease the amount of sugars, you're going to do better. Also, I tell parents it's the sticky sugars too. If I like to ask my fourth graders, if I give you a spoonful of sugar, straight up sugar, or I give you a Jolly Rancher, which one is going to be worse for your mouth? And the answer is always a Jolly Rancher, even a gummy bear or a juice, any of the small, chewy candies, anything that gets stuck in your mouth. And I tell the kids, if you're sitting in there and you've got candy in your mouth still and you finish swallowing it, that's bad candy because it's still feeding your bacteria. And also, a sugared gum is horrible because it's full of sugar and they'll chew it for a half hour. We call Mountain Dew the moneymaker. In the dental industry, everybody out there, just be aware. Mountain Dew is called the moneymaker because we make a ton of money off of Mountain Dew. And yet we hate it with a passion. Dentists don't want to make money off of Mountain Dew or decay. We feel like we're here to help you because you already have this problem. We're here to help you get rid of this problem. We're not here just to fill teeth. Yes, we make money doing that. But dentists in general really want to help you stop getting that. And so Mountain Dew, for whatever reason, causes mass. You can tell a kid will come in at 6-month checkups, and all of a sudden they've got decay everywhere. And you're like, wow, this is a problem. And you question the kid, yep, they started drinking Mountain Dew in the last 6 months, and now we've got decay everywhere. So Mountain Dew is a problem, but all soda drinks are a problem. Mountain Dew is a specific high problem, but soft drinks cause, first of all, they have sugar in them, straight up sugar. Kids will tend to nurse them. Right? They'll go little by little, sip a little, and they'll make it last a half hour, right? So that's number one. You've got all this sugar that's assaulting, and the bacteria is going, oh, more and more and more. The second thing that happens is the soda pop has carbonic acid. Okay? So carbonic acid is what makes it fizz. That's acid. Acid is why we don't like plaque. Bacteria create plaque. Plaque has a low pH. It's very acidic. That low pH, that acid, it eats away at your teeth. It's a double whammy that you're doing both. Now, it brings up another subject. Acid coming from any other source is a problem. So I've seen kids where they are sucking on lemons. They just like lemons. Lemons are very acidic. And so you'll see an erosion of their teeth. They'll come in for their appointment. You're like, your teeth just look almost translucent. They've eroded that outer layer of calcium on their teeth. Also, people who are bulimic, okay, so if they're throwing up, you'll see those. We're taught to look at the back side of someone's teeth. If you see erosion on the back side of someone's teeth, it's either reflux or bulimia. And we're supposed to talk to the patient about it. And that's a tender subject with people like, do you make yourself throw up? That's not a question that people want to answer truthfully. So you have to really kind of come around the edges of it. But any kind of acid in your mouth that you're putting in, you want to be aware of it. So a lot of people will say, okay, I've got acid. I just ate something acidic. I'm going to go brush my teeth. No, don't do that. Or I just threw up. I'm going to go brush my teeth. Don't do that. Your teeth have just lost the outer layer of calcium. A thin layer of calcium from the acid that just came up. You want to rinse your mouth, definitely to take the pH back up. So rinse your mouth with water, make sure it's rinsed well, and then use a mouthwash to get you back to normal so that a mouthwash with fluoride will replace the calcium you lost with fluoride. So I really love having a fluoride around the house for anybody that's throwing up because we tell them you got to rinse your mouth and get that out. Brushing your teeth is not a good idea at that point. You can wait once it's later that day. Sure, go brush your teeth. It bounces back fairly quickly, but you want to be aware of that.
I have never heard that because if you throw up, get sick, whatever, the first thing you want to do is brush your teeth to get that out. So that is brand new information for me. That's pretty amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And then another question that I had is you brought up mouthwash. And I've seen in the store mouthwash for kids, whatever. What is an age? And then how do you teach your children to use mouthwash properly? Because I don't think you want them swallowing it. No, no, no.
Before the age of 5, really, kids can't control swallowing toothpaste or mouthwash. They're going to swallow it. So what you have to know is, am I in a fluoridated area? Is my water fluoridated where I live? If it is fluoridated, your child is already getting the optimal amount of fluoride. If they get more fluoride, it doesn't cause any damage in terms of health issues. But what happens is the child becomes more susceptible to fluorosis. Fluorosis is where the enamel becomes spotted. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for spotting of the enamel, but fluorosis, you'll see it on almost all the teeth. You'll just see these little white spots that show up. Like I said, there are other reasons for that, but if you're getting too much fluoride, the teeth actually become a little bit brown. Okay, it starts turning the tooth brown. In fact, that's how they found out that fluoride was out there. Is in Colorado, there was a town that their well had a high amount of fluoride. Nobody knew that, but everybody had brown teeth. But they never got cavities. Nobody in this town got cavities. All their teeth were incredible. So they started studying these people. Of course, they hated their brown teeth.
Sure.
But they were also, the dentists were going, but you don't get cavities. So then they started seeing some people that didn't have the brown teeth, but they didn't get cavities. And they found that the people with the brown teeth were getting a lot of fluoride. The people with the not brown teeth, the white teeth, were getting just a teeny amount of fluoride. It doesn't take much. It's like 1 part per million. It's very small. And so nowadays you're getting, even if you're in a non-fluoridated town, you're still getting some fluoride in bottled water, if it was bottled in a town where it had fluoride in it. Or if you're on a well, we always tell people, check your well for fluoride and see if it's too much or too little. And especially as dentists, if we prescribe fluoride to someone, to a family, the dentist is supposed to be asking you, are you on a well? Because it's easy to go, oh yeah, we're in the city, nobody's on a well. And then somebody is on a well, and that well has fluoride in it. We're also supposed to tell people, if we're giving them fluoride, don't let your child brush with fluoridated toothpaste when they're little, because they're getting too much fluoride at that point, okay? And there's times that I saw in St. Louis, which is fluoridated. I am a massive fan of fluoridation. I am in Oregon, and they don't fluoridate the water in any of our major cities. Portland, none of the cities have fluoride in them, sadly, because it means that a lot of kids have cavities. But when I was in St. Louis, a lot of kids came in with this just slight discoloration of the teeth because of fluorosis, and it didn't cause any permanent damage. The teeth were actually super strong. But who wants that on their teeth? Right. And too often we as dentists were like, well, their teeth are strong though, so that's a good thing. I'm like, no, it's not. Tooth color and all of that is really important to people. They don't want to walk around with brown spots or white spots on their teeth. So we have to be better, in my opinion, of really letting families know, if you got somebody under 5 and your town is fluoridated, talk with your dentist and see if you should be using toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride in it. Just use a teeny drop. I mean, half a pea size is what you should be using. You don't need a lot on that toothbrush, and especially with any fluoride. My own kids, I wanted to control the amount of fluoride that's going in their mouth, and so I'm not going to put it on their toothbrush. I want a non-fluoridated toothpaste up to about age 5. And then we can give the same thing with mouthwash, of course. I don't want fluoride in any mouthwash. But do little kids really need mouthwash? No, they don't. Most of your odor that comes from the mouth is from your tongue. So that's what I'm a big fan of tongue scrapers. Tongue scrapers are awesome.
Really?
If you wake up in the morning, you got a bad breath, go grab a tongue scraper. Go as far back as you can. Don't gag yourself, but get pretty far, because anaerobic bacteria that's causing some of those issues. So, and those at night are going crazy. So you go in there and you don't have to go crazy scraping. Just one nice gentle scrape across the whole thing. Some of them are bigger scrapers. Some of the tongue scrapers are big. Some are smaller and require 2 gentle scrapes. But you're not scraping everything off. You're just, when you take it off, you'll see how much of that you take off. You're like, oh yeah, I'm not putting that back in my mouth. I'm putting that in. What I love doing in my exams, I'll have an Explorer, which is a little hooked instrument that we can scrape off plaque where I see it. So I'll scrape it off and I'll show the patient. I love doing it to teenagers. I'll show it. I'll say, okay, so that's just a little bit of plaque that's on there. And if you could just put your tongue out so I can get rid of it. And look at me like, no, you cannot do that. You cannot, like, are you crazy? Are you Jekyll and Hyde? Are you like, are you Hitler? How could you do this to me? Well, that's where I got it. I was just putting it back where I got it. And then I tell them, I'm just pointing out, you don't like it. So get rid of it. You don't want this stuff in your mouth. So with the little ones, you want to make sure that once you take the tongue scraping out, you would never put that back in your mouth.
Right.
You always rinse it in the sink because it's like, that's gross. Even though it probably wouldn't hurt you one bit to put it back in.
Right.
But that's the biggest source of bad breath is that tongue. Now, the second is what you eat, garlic, onions, they're going to be coming up. Garlic's going through your pores on your skin. So, I mean, it's everywhere. Then the next thing that can cause bad breath is decay in your mouth. A periodontal disease leaves some nasty breath. And so you got to get that disease out of your mouth if you want to get rid of that breath. So those are the three main reasons for bad breath. And you can really easily control the first one there. So that's some ideas on mouth rinse as well. So if you want to use a mouth rinse is like my third on the list. And it's way down the list in terms of what you can do to take care of your teeth. You got brushing and flossing. That is just like the kingpins. You got mouth rinses. They can do some good. A lot of the dentists don't like Listerine because the alcohol content is high. Right. So we rarely would have a child use it because they are tending to swallow some of it. And also that alcohol content tends to dry out the mouth. And so people are always worried when there's saliva that slips out of the mouth or saliva or this. And like, oh, I'm sorry, my mouth is full of saliva. And I always let them know, saliva is like gold for dentists. A dentist that is grossed out by saliva is like a mechanic that's grossed out by oil. Okay? Really? Oil keeps the engine going. They know that's the lifeblood of that engine. Saliva keeps the mouth going. The worst thing that can happen to a person is to have dry mouth. People who get cancer and they'll get a radiation that stops the salivary glands from producing, they go downhill fast in terms of oral care. They'll get disease, cavities. Saliva is super, and that's why we have artificial saliva for those kind of people. But there's some drugs that slow down saliva, and those are really, really negative things for people. So we want saliva in the mouth. So if you're at the dentist, there's a little bit of extra saliva, it's like, no big deal. That's good stuff. Going back to this then, with the mouth rinse being the third, you just don't need a lot of it. You know, if you want to use it to make your mouth a little bit more, it can certainly help. I tend to stay away from Listerine also because it's just hard to use. The kids, it burns your mouth just a little bit, and the alcohol dries out your mouth just a little bit as it desiccates. So, and it evaporates. So that's something to think about. It's not horrible, you know, so it's obviously has its popularity. I'm a fan of the other ones. As long as it had fluoride and it tastes good to you, go for it.
Wow, that's amazing. You've taught me a ton of stuff today that I never thought of. So this is really good. So I always end my podcast when I have a guest with the same question, and that is, how would you describe a successful parent?
I would say a successful parent is the one who parented today with love. That's it. Parenting is an everyday experience. And no matter how many mistakes you've made, how much you've screwed up in the past, if you approached today and you parented to the best of your ability and you did it with love and you're trying to learn and to grow, I think that's a successful parent. And I would say the next thing is it's a parent who's willing to grow as a parent and take input as a parent from their kids, a parent that's willing to apologize often to their child when they don't live up to their standards. Mm-hmm. I used to be worried because I apologize to my kids all the time. I'm sorry. I screwed up. I should have been frustrated there. I should have done a better job with you, and I apologize. And I'd be like, how many times are they going to let me do that? And they go, that's just an idiot. You know, he doesn't know what he's doing. And yet, once my kids were all grown up, they're like, Dad, I always appreciated that you were trying to do better, that you would come to me and you weren't afraid to say, I didn't do it the way I wanted to do it. I was taught by my mom that you're one day going to be a parent, Ted. When I was little, she would tell me, you're going to be a dad. People asked me as a young boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer was always a dad. I mean, that's what I had been taught, that was the highest level of adulting, is to be a father. And so I was really excited to do it. And my mom prepared me for that event, and she prepared me by helping me to understand what it would be like. She taught me how to be a parent when I was very young. And that helped me to know what her standards were, and if she didn't hold up to them, and I also knew what I wanted to do when I got to be older. So if you're still trying, and you're still learning, and you're still loving, you're successful.
I love that. Thanks so much for sharing. So, Ted Bennion, where can people find you, or do you care if people find you? I know you have a very busy practice.
Yeah, you can find us in Medford, Oregon. We're sitting in the same office every day, doing the same thing every day, making smiles, saving the world. in our own little way. I think the best part of orthodontics is the journey that I get to take with people. They come in, I get to see a generally healthy population, and they come in, they know what their problem is. I'm not surprising them. Sorry, you have a root canal. It's like, you got crooked teeth, and I think you knew it. And so you can find me in Medford, and we're there Monday through Thursday, and we start early at 7 o'clock, and we finish at 4, and it's a great job, great occupation.
Well, Ted Bennion, thank you so much for joining us and being part of this. So for everyone else, I hope you appreciate all of this great information. If you have any ideas or suggestions or ahas, you can always leave them with me at djstutz@littleheartsacademyusa.com. You can always go to our Facebook page or my Instagram page, and that's also under Little Hearts Academy USA. And I always love to hear the aha moments and the things that you've learned from our podcast. So I hope to hear from all of you soon. Thanks so much for joining us. Oh, hey, you're still here. You must have loved the show. Why not leave that 5-star review so the show is easier to find for other families and they can enjoy the show as well? All right, I'm really going to go now. Catch you next time. Goodbye.